Part 2. Smarter, Faster, Better. The Secrets of Being Productive in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. Be sure to stay till the end for all 4 main takeaways. Chapter 5. Managing Others. In 2013, FBI Director Robert Mueller had launched a series of initiatives that were designed to spark, as he told Congress in 2013, a paradigm shift in the FBI's cultural mindset. One particular focus was encouraging junior agents to make independent decisions about which leads they should pursue, rather than waiting for orders from superiors. Any agent could chase a clue if they thought something was being overlooked. Agents learn to investigate by listening to their guts, and learning they can change direction when new evidence appears. But for those instincts to be unlocked, management had to empower them. Employees work smarter and better when they believe they have more decision-making authority, and when they believe their colleagues are committed to their success. A sense of control can fuel motivation. But for that drive to produce insights and innovations, people need to know their suggestions won't be ignored, that their mistakes won't be held against them. They need to know that everyone has their back. The decentralization of decision-making can make anyone into an expert, but if trust doesn't exist, if programmers at the FBI aren't trusted to solve problems, if agents aren't encouraged to follow a hunch without fear of admonishment, organizations lose access to the vast expertise we all carry within our heads. When people are allowed to stop the assembly line, redirect huge software project, or follow an instinct, they take responsibility for making sure an enterprise will succeed. A culture of commitment and trust isn't a magic bullet. It doesn't guarantee that a product will sell or an idea will bear fruit. But it's the best bet for making sure the right conditions are in place when a great idea comes along. That said, there are good reasons companies don't decentralize authority. There is a powerful logic behind investing power in only a few hands. Inside the FBI, a misguided programmer could have built a wrong computer system. An agent might have followed a wrong hunch. But in the end, the reward of autonomy and commitment culture outweighs the costs. The bigger misstep is when there is never an opportunity for an employee to make a mistake. Empower workers to make independent decisions and give them the opportunity to follow leads without fear. It doesn't mean that the new innovation will be built every week, but it's the best bet for making sure the right conditions are in place when this idea comes through. Chapter 6. Decision Making. How do we learn to make better decisions? In part, by training ourselves to think probabilistically. To do that, we must force ourselves to envision various futures, to hold contradictory scenarios in our minds simultaneously, and then expose ourselves to a wide spectrum of successes and failures to develop an intuition about which forecasts are more or less likely to come true. We can develop this intuition by studying statistics, playing games like poker, thinking through life's potential pitfalls and successes, or helping our kids work through their anxieties by writing them down and patiently calculating the odds. There are numerous ways to build a Bayesian instinct. Some of them are as simple as looking at our past choices and asking ourselves, why was I so certain things would turn out one way? Why was I wrong? Regardless of our methods, the goals are the same, to see the future as multiple possibilities rather than one predetermined outcome, to identify what you do and don't know, to ask yourself, which choice gets you the best odds? Fortune-telling isn't real after all. No one can predict tomorrow with absolute confidence. But the mistake some people make is trying to avoid making any predictions because their thirst for certainty is so strong, and their fear of doubt too overwhelming. If Annie had stayed in academics, would any of this have mattered? Absolutely, she said. If you're trying to decide what job to take, or whether you can afford a vacation, or how much you need to save for retirement, those are all predictions. The same basic rules apply. The people who make the best choices are the ones who work the hardest to envision various futures, to write them down and think them through, and ask themselves, which ones do I think are most likely, and why? Anyone can learn to make better decisions. We can all train ourselves to see small predictions we make every day. No one is right every time, but with practice we can learn how to influence the probability that our fortune-telling comes true. The best practice to make decisions is through predicting a variety of outcomes, what can happen, and discussing and analyzing them. Assign probabilities to outcomes. Make a calculated decision. Chapter 7. Innovation. Creativity can't be reduced to a formula. There's no checklist that, if followed, delivers innovation on demand. But the creative process is different. We can create the conditions that help creativity flourish. We know, for example, that innovation becomes more likely when old ideas are mixed in new ways. We know the odds of success go up when people with fresh, different perspectives, who have seen the ideas in a variety of settings, draw on the diversity within their heads. We know that sometimes a little disturbance can help jolt us out of the ruts even the most creative thinkers fall into, as long as those shakeups are the right size. If you want to become a broker and increase the productivity of your own creative process, these are 3 things that can help. First, be sensitive to your own experiences. Pay attention to how things make you feel. That's how we distinguish cliches from true, unique insights. As Steve Jobs put it, the best designers are those who have thought more about their experiences than other people. Similarly, the Disney process asks filmmakers to look inwards, to think about their own emotions and experiences until they find answers that make imaginary characters come alive. Jerry Robbins pushed his West Side Story collaborators to put their own aspirations and emotions on the stage. Look at your own life as creative fodder, and broker your own experience into the wider world. Second, recognize that the panic and stress you feel as you try to create isn't a sign that everything is falling apart. Rather, it's the condition that helps make us flexible enough to see something new. Creative desperation can be critical. Anxiety is often what pushes us to see old ideas in new ways. The path out of turmoil is to look at what you know, to reinspect conventions you've seen work and try to apply them to fresh problems. The creative pain should be embraced. Finally, remember that the relief accompanying a creative breakthrough, while sweet, can also blind us to seeing alternatives. It is critical to maintain some distance from what we create. Without self-criticism, without tension, one idea can quickly crowd out competitors. But we can regain that critical distance by forcing ourselves to critique what we've already done, by making ourselves look at it from completely different perspectives, by changing the power dynamics in a room, or giving new authority to someone who didn't have it before. Disturbances are essential, and we retain clear eyes by embracing destruction and upheaval, as long as we're sensitive to making the disturbance the right size. There's an idea that runs through these 3 lessons. The creative process is, in fact, a process, something that can be broken down and explained. That's important because it means anyone can become more creative. We can all become innovation brokers. We all have experiences and tools, disturbances and tensions that can make us into brokers, if, that is, we're willing to embrace the desperation and upheaval and try to see our old ideas in new ways. Chapter 8. Absorbing Data. In the past 2 decades, the amount of information embedded in our daily lives has skyrocketed. There are smartphones that count our steps, websites that track our spending, digital maps to plot our commutes, software that watches our web browsing, and apps that manage our schedules. We can precisely measure how many calories we eat each day, how much our cholesterol scores have improved each month, how many dollars we spent at restaurants, and how many minutes were allocated to the gym. This information can be incredibly powerful. If harnessed correctly, data can make our days more productive, our diets healthier, our schools more effective, and our lives less stressful. Unfortunately, however, our ability to learn from information hasn't necessarily kept pace with its proliferation. Though we can track our spending and cholesterol, we still often eat and spend in ways we know we should avoid. Even simple uses of information, such as choosing a restaurant or a new credit card, haven't necessarily become simple. This creates information blindness. One way to overcome information blindness is to force ourselves to grapple with the data in front of us, to manipulate the information by transforming it into a sequence of questions to be answered or choices to be made. This is sometimes referred to as creating disfluency, because it relies on doing a little bit of work. Instead of simply choosing the house wine, you have to ask yourself a series of questions: white or red, expensive or cheap. When we encounter new information and want to learn from it, we should force ourselves to do something with the data. It's not enough for your bathroom scale to send daily updates to an app on your phone. If you want to lose weight, force yourself to plot these measurements on graph paper, and you'll be more likely to choose a salad over a hamburger at lunch. If you read a book filled with new ideas, force yourself to put it down and explain the concepts to someone sitting next to you, and you'll be more likely to apply them in your life. When you find a new piece of information, force yourself to engage with it, to use it in an experiment or describe it to a friend, and then you will start building the mental folders that are at the core of learning. Every choice we make in life is an experiment. Every day offers fresh opportunities to find better decision-making frames. We live in a time when data is more plentiful, cheaper to analyze, and easier to translate into action than ever before. Smartphones, websites, digital databases, and apps put information at our fingertips, but it only becomes useful if we know how to make sense of it. We get so much data, but we have to engage with it. Make an impact. Don't just learn about something, analyze it, Ask questions and put it to use. 1. Empowering workers is important to the team's success. 2. Think ahead. 3. Innovation daily will guarantee your profitability. 4. Engage with the data. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.